No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it. You make it work for you. You never give up, man. That's my philosophy.
Hey gardeners, hope you've all had a really great week. Look what I found hiding behind these flowers. A watermelon. And the tendril, first one coming off of the melon, is all dried up. So that's a good sign that this melon is ready for harvest. Gonna have to open that up, see how well we did with that. Now, let's get growing. All right, gardeners, it's Saturday, so that means it's time for the Let's Get Growing LiveCast here on the Urban Gardener channel. And I'm Enoch. I'll be your host today. We have a really great, exciting show for you today. We have a conversation with our good friend, Christopher Brandsdal from Norway. He'll be joining with us here in just a little bit, talk all about his gardening and all of his different gardens. And if you are joining with us here today, right now, please give us a big thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and also be sure to share our show with all of your friends. Help get the word out about the Let's Get Growing show and all of our great guests that we have here on our show each week and all of our fun gardening conversations. And you can also check out our show on our website at letsgetgrowing.live. You can find out all about our show and different things in our past shows and upcoming shows as well too. And if you are here joining with us and you have any comments or questions or anything at all, put them right into our chat box there. And hopefully here in a little bit, we'll get to some of those questions you have. And especially if you have any questions for Christopher, we'll be able to put those right up and ask those of him right here live on the show. So be sure to join in on the conversation in our chat box. And also, real quick too, I want to say that the best way to support our show, the Let's Get Growing show, is to support our sponsor, Ivy Organics. You can visit ivyorganics.com and check out all of the great things that they have there to shop for in their on their website there. And be sure to use our promo code GROW10, GROW10, to get 10% off of all of the different things that they have there in their shop. You gotta go check out some of their fertilizer they have, but really they have this awesome 3-in-1 plant guard. I think it's a really amazing product, so be sure to go check that out as well too. And if you haven't yet already, go down into the description below. There's a link to our Facebook group on here for the Urban Gardener community, the Let's Get Growing gardening group. Go down there and check or join up with us. Share all of your different gardens. It's a great place where you can post pictures, ask or answer questions, or anything at all. Just just bring all of your fun gardening adventures right to our group. We'd love to have you there. It's a great way to communicate with everybody outside of our show. And also, real quick, a big, huge shout out to all of you who are watching our replay. We get a lot of our viewers from our replay. I want to thank all of you for joining us right here at the top of the show. And if you have any comments or any sort of suggestions or questions or anything at all, be sure get down into the comment section below. Let me know you're here. Let me know what you think of the Let's Get Growing show. And if you have any suggestions, you have any ideas, do you have any people that you would love to hear me interview for the show, I'd love to hear those suggestions below in the comments. So yes, absolutely. So another great week here on the Urban Gardener and in our gardens. And you can see right here, right from the top of the show there, I put I showed you the watermelon that I found and I cut it up. I've been enjoying that here before the shows got started, and turned out really great. And it's one of the things that I think about when I think about the success of my garden, there's a lot of things I grow, a lot of things I really, really love. But if I get a good melon out of my garden, then I am happy as can be for how the season has turned out. So no matter how things are with anything, if I get a good watermelon, it's a great season. And so awesome season, awesome watermelon right out of our alleyway. It goes to show you that you can grow in lots and lots of different spaces, some that you wouldn't even think of, like our alleyway space, our patios, all of that sort of stuff that we have here on the Urban Garden channel that we feature that show you that you can grow in small spaces. Yeah, so get out and grow. And also, again, too, this week, I've been mentioning over the last few weeks, actually, almost becoming a broken record about how much heat we have and how hot it is over here. Well, we've actually cooled down quite a bit in the area I live here in Southern Oregon, and that's really nice. But I also mentioned last week too, one of the things that we also have is a bunch of smoke that is filling up the valley I live in. I live in the Rogue Valley in Southern Oregon, just this big, huge valley bowl, basically. And when the wildfires start to hit all around us, these fires, I believe, right now are just south of us in Northern California, just across the border there. And man, our valley just sucks that smoke in. The day could start out nice and light, looks all right. By the afternoon, it's just, you can barely even see down the street that the smoke is so thick. And that's just kind of how and what we've been dealing with here over the last couple of weeks. And actually over the last several years, it's just become something that is normal to us anymore. I've been talking to several people this last week about how, over the last 5 years, I would say maybe a little bit longer, this is just the normal for us in the area that I live in. And for a lot of people in California, I know up in Washington State, they've also been dealing with a bunch of smoke that's been filling up the different communities up there as well from a bunch of different wildfires. And of course, the Canadian wildfires that have been happening, those have been going on for months and months and months. And also too, man, the biggest problem with all this, it's one thing to have a wildfire. In fact, wildfires, take the word wild out of there in a sense though too, but fires can be a really good thing in a sense for the ecosystem in a forest. Just kind of burns things off. Things get to regrow, all that sort of stuff. But the dangers with all of these massive wildfires that we've had, when we've seen this happen, I think I talked about this last week as well. We had a wildfire that burnt through a couple of our towns that are just right south of me and really came up just a couple of miles from where I live. It was a really scary day when that fire was burning. It was called the Alameda Fire. There was the campfire back, I believe, in 2018. I think it was 2018, or 2018, 2019. But that, they call it campfire, worst name for a fire, for a wildfire that basically destroyed the town of Paradise. And I went to my second heirloom exposition right there in Santa Rosa when they were being held up there in Northern California. A couple of weeks after I left that one in 2000, I believe that was also 2018, Santa Rosa burn up, man. Neighborhoods just wiped out and gone. And right now we're all hearing the news about all the different tragedy and the different things that are happening with the wildfires that have happened all the way out in the islands, out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean there in Hawaii, and the Maui wildfires. And so, our thoughts and prayers go out to all the people who are dealing with those in such a destructive way. It's one thing to be able to live with the residual of these fires and all this smoke in our valley, but to think about actually what those fires mean to other people. And it's a pretty big deal. And again, too, I also kind of talked about a little bit last week. I'll just go over real quick again. Wildfires bring in a lot of smoke. And that's along with that smoke comes a lot of ash as well too. I've been seeing it collecting all over my car. You know, you can really tell when you're trying to look through the windshield, you know, how much ash is actually coming down onto onto our vehicles. But when we're talking about our gardens, these plants that are just out there and they're stuck out there, there's nothing that we can do about them being in the middle of that sort of situation. So we can see that all that ash is also starting to collect up on our plants. And, that's the real big issue when it comes to large amounts of smoke and ash that come into your area from any wildfires. So if you're anywhere and dealing with that, the best thing you can do for your plants is just make sure you're getting out there pretty much on the daily and, hosing them off, washing them off, with your hose, watering them. I usually like to water more at the base. If I can, I have a lot of containers. I want to water them from below to allow the water to kind of, wick into those containers and all of that. But during these times and all of this ash, it's a really good idea just to water from above, wash off all of those plants. And as far as the smoke itself, the plants are not going to have a problem with that. All of the carbon and all of that, they're just going to really enjoy. That's what plants do. They cycle that into oxygen. So hopefully, the plants will be, just fine in that sort of situation. But that ash is something that you're going to want to keep an eye out for, so lots and lots of things going on in the garden right now. And so I also last week in the garden segment talked about showing you the other parts of our alleyway garden. So let's check that out here real quick in our segment in the garden. Welcome to In the Garden. And as I promised last week, we're going to take a quick walk through our alleyway growing spaces, starting right here on our back fence line. So back here, we've got 6 different varieties of tomatoes growing here along the fence. We've got 1 main plant on each of these stakes here. And then next to them, we've got 2 smaller cherry tomato plants along with each of our tomatoes. And as far as these big main plants, they haven't been producing or setting out very many fruit because of all the real extreme heat that we've had lately, but it has cooled off over the last couple of weeks, and we are starting to form some fruits on these plants here. I think I saw some more right here too. So we do have some fruits on there that are finally starting to form, and hopefully will be ripening up here over the next couple of months. But next to each of these plants, we've got this variety called Prax Cherry Tomato. These are some really delicious tomatoes, and these plants are starting to put off a lot of fruits. I've got 2 next to each of our main plants there, and I'm growing all of those cherry tomatoes so that I can save seeds for hopefully a seed giveaway later on this season. Check out these big sunflowers. Another really big one. And this one's here getting ready to enjoy the sun for the day. And then down below these, I've got these watermelon growing. And I think, oh, yep, there we are. We've got ourselves melon right there. Still ripening up, I believe. Yeah, tendrils still nice and green, so we'll give that one just a bit longer. And we also got an apple tree in a container here, and it does have just 1 apple this season. It's actually lost a few fruit, especially during some of this real high heat. Like I said, that's not really good for the plants. Got a strawberry patch here. A loofah plant that's trying to grow right up the fence there. And back here we've got our compost pile and some more of the melon plants that have grown onto this side of the fence, through the fence there. And we also got over here some blueberry plants, a couple of tomatoes, some cherry tomatoes over there. We haven't done too much with this side of the alleyway garden. We do have this variety of tomato growing right here, which has done really well during the summertime in the full sun and all the heat. It really gives me lots of good, nice tomatoes. We've got several on here that we need to harvest up, but very good heat tolerant tomato. This is called a Big Red Chief. Now right next to this, in the middle of the growing space here in our alleyway, is our neighbor's garden. This garden was the inspiration for most of my gardening here in the alleyway. My neighbor's been growing here in this space for, I'd say, almost 30 years, but check out how tall these corn plants are. This is a big, tall Mexican white corn that he grows each year. I remember the first year I lived here and noticed all of this growing, and decided that I wanted to try to do the same with my own space. In fact, you can see right over here, we've got our corn plants, which are all pretty much done for the season, but yeah, they're not quite as tall as these ones here. And inside here, he's got all sorts of different things growing. I haven't walked through here to really check out what all he has in here, but yeah, really nice garden. And more of the corn up there. And then right down this way here, we've got our beds that I built right here along the alleyway, along with these cattle panel trellises, so that we can utilize some vertical growing space. As you can see here in the beds, we've got some cucumber plants that I actually got started pretty late in the season. That's why they're still pretty small. So they're just now starting to grab onto the fencing, and they should be growing up through there, produce a lot of great cucumbers for us coming up here soon. And then on this one, we've got some pole beans, and I planted 2 plants in here, but really you only really probably need 1 right in the middle. These things will spread out. As you can see, it's got all of these different vines coming off of it, growing all over the fence here. And pretty soon this should be putting out some flowers and some beans. And we'll be picking beans off of this for days coming up real soon. But check this out. This here is a volunteer. Look how huge this tomatillo plant is. It's just massive. And very similar to the tomatoes, and I think it might be the heat, I'm pretty sure, but we got tons of flowers on this thing, but no fruit that I can find on it quite yet too. So if it does start to produce fruit, there's going to be a ton of it, because I mean, look how big that thing is. That's huge, huge. And then over here at the end of our alleyway space here, along the side of the alleyway, we've got some San Marzano tomatoes, and one of my favorite peppers too, this long red pepper pods here called Dos Deslandes. And these things, you'd think because they're red and long like that, that they're a hot pepper, but these things are as sweet as candy. Very delicious. A pepper I grow every single year. Got some more San Marzanos. I think at the beginning of the show here, I showed you all. I just found this melon actually here. So I got to pull that out real quick because it's ripe and ready to go. We've got This pepper plant back here, this is a Chinese 5-color pepper plant, and as you can see, the pods kind of start off as a purple and then turn into a yellow color, and then kind of an orange, and then ultimately, like most peppers, they end up a red color. So I love these Chinese 5 colors. And here we've got a zucchini squash, and it's nice and early in the morning, so the flowers are out and open, looking to get pollinated. And this is a fruiting flower too. As you can see, the fruit there at the end of it there. So yeah, I might have to actually come in and hand pollinate that. I might do that after this video. And then right over here, I mentioned it, we've got our herb garden. All sorts of different herbs. We've got this is a garlic chives, we've got a sage, we've got some mint, oregano, and different, oh, there's some more chives back there. And what we got here, some tarragon, we've got some parsley, one of our fountains. And then here is our container peach tree. We've already harvested off all of the delicious peaches that we got this year. But yeah, that's our alleyway growing space that we grow in here. Trying to take advantage of as much space as we can. Grow as much food for ourselves. Hey, George. Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IV Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. IV Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
So, all right. Nice look around the garden spaces we have in our alleyway. We've got lots of great things growing there. I wish I could have gotten a little bit more detail in a tour, but we only had so much time. So we kind of just made it a nice little quick little look at what we got there. There's a lot more growing on in that space there as well, too. And right here, I just want to also acknowledge everybody and say thank you so much for joining with me today. I really appreciate it. I see everybody in the comments section right now leaving some really great comments and a couple of questions. In fact, I want to kind of go over those real quick here. We have TC joining us and asked, do you ever pickle your watermelon rinds? I don't know. I've never tried that. You know, that's something I'm really going to have to think about. I bet you it's pretty good. I've actually seen and heard about it before. Never thought about really doing that myself, but that's something I'm definitely going to look into. I think I saw Jay left a link for some different things that we can do with our watermelons as well, too, in the comments there also. And TC also asked, is it any good? And I'm sure he was talking about the watermelon again, too, as well. But yeah, I've been eating on it. Actually, while we were watching that video, I took another bite there, too. Yes, very delicious and really, really sweet. So much, I mean, really so much better than what you're going to get out of the store. So, you know, definitely if you can and find some space somewhere, you can find spaces, all sorts of places like I show in my alleyway there too. Grow yourself some watermelons. And We've got Debbie Gordon joining with us too, who asked, wow, you really got it going on there. Do you ever have passers-by sampling the goods? Yeah, well, when you're growing in an alleyway like I am, that happens. But you know what? That is all a part of the deal when it comes to growing in a public space. This is basically growing in a public space. I get people walking through here all the time. In fact, my show, The Urban Gardener, and the channel and all of that was originally started because of people who walked through the alleyway, whether they were neighbors, or other people in the community, or just people passing by who would always mention how cool they thought everything was. And eventually people started encouraging me to actually start sharing and making videos. And that's kind of how that all got started. And real quick story about watermelon as well too. The very first watermelon I grew out there in the alleyway many years ago, I had this big, giant, beautiful watermelon that I grew, and I was so excited. It was the first one I'd ever grown. And again too, you got to wait there. I've shown in the beginning clip and also during that video clip, you got to check those little tendrils. It's the first tendril that comes off of the vine there that the watermelon is attached to, and you kind of want to wait for that to dry up. When that dries up, that tells you that the watermelon is about ready to go. Plus maybe a little bit of yellowing in the part of where it's sitting on the ground too helps give you another kind of clue. But yeah, I was waiting for it to ripen up. It still had a ways to go, and it was really big. And then I went out there one day, and that whole thing was gone. Oh, I was devastated. I couldn't believe it, So, there are those risks when you're growing out in an alleyway in these public spaces just like that, and just things that I have to deal with. So the only thing I could do then was wait till the next season, grow some more, and make sure I worked on keeping those fruits really hidden from everybody. But yeah, so there are a lot of different things that go on when it comes to gardening in some of these spaces. But I still get so much food just for myself growing in these spaces, so it's really great. And yeah, so I hope all of you get a chance to grow some watermelon of your own, and maybe try some pickling of the rinds. I think that's something I'll look into. All right, now it's time to check in with our featured guest. All right, this week we have joining with us our good friend, longtime friend since the beginning of my channel, someone I like to talk to every now and then and catch up with and talk all about gardening and what we've got growing on. Christopher has some really unique gardening spaces. He's growing all the way up in the northern climate up there in the country of Norway. And so he has some real seasonal challenges, but he finds ways around that through indoor gardening. He's got a really great greenhouse, all sorts of stuff. We're going to dig in and talk all about that here with our friend Christopher. Hey. There
Hello.
he is. How you doing, Chris? It's good to see you.
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Doing great. It's awesome to have you here. A lot of times we just do a really kind of straightforward live stream. We get together and talk every now and then, but I thought, you know what? I've got to have Christopher on as an actual featured guest for our show and talk all about what's going on here in the middle of our growing season with you and see how things are growing for you up there.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me. It's fun. I've been watching your show for a while now, and yeah, I really like it. So yeah, it's nice to be on.
Excellent. It's great to have you on, man. So how have things been going? It's summertime up there, right? You're in the middle of summer. It's just basically the middle of your gardening season, right?
No,
Or
it's
maybe.
not in the middle. It's getting cold now.
Oh, already.
So yeah, we have
Oh.
12 degrees Celsius now these days, and so
man.
it's getting colder, and it's been raining for the full of July. It's just been raining, and it's still just raining. It's
Oh,
been like
man.
this for the full summer, and we had floods, and there's been so many things going on up here. So it's not been a typical summer. It's been autumn, the full summer.
autumn, the full summer. Oh
Yeah.
man, I'll tell you what, man. I wish we could trade up. That's one thing that's so different about our climates, man.
Yeah.
I haven't seen rain since I don't know, back in May, I think.
Yeah, but I think it's too much sun is not good and too much rain is not good. So
Oh yeah.
a few of the houses in our village just got taken by slides because of all the rain. So yeah, rain isn't the best thing either. So
Yeah.
the best thing is just a combination. But thankfully, I have the greenhouse, and with that, I can control most of the growing conditions. But still, the moisture is really hard to avoid, because when it's raining outside, it's gonna be moist inside in the greenhouse also. So yeah. But I had a good season. I had a good season in the greenhouse. I've been harvesting so many things, but I
Yeah.
started really slow this year. Normally, I would start my plants in February and then plant them out in early May or end of April. But this year, I didn't have anything in the soil until in the middle of June or something, and it was really slow. But it just started growing really nice, and now I'm harvesting peppers every single day, and I've had cucumbers the full growing season.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and tomatoes. Now we have onions and leeks and stuff like that going, and yeah, grapes also.
Yeah, that sounds great, man. So, that's seriously kind of how I feel right now. I think I kind of just mentioned that just a little bit. Obviously, I got myself a melon out of my garden in my alleyway garden. So to me, if I can grow a good melon, as I said, I consider everything a real success. And this year, we had so many different challenges, personal challenges, whether or not I was going to get to stay here, a lot of things that really kind of cut into my timing for what I would do for my gardening. And so there were a lot of those challenges, but ultimately it's the same story, man. I am so thrilled with, basically how things have turned out. I've been harvesting tons and tons of stuff. A little less tomatoes. I've got tons of cherry tomatoes. Tons and tons of cherry tomatoes are great, but because of our heat, that really inhibits the ability of our tomato plants to produce really well during the summertime. But they're starting to fruit right now as we're cooling down, and a lot of those fruits will be ripe and ready to go here, in the next month or two, and we'll have plenty to harvest from them when it comes to that. None of the early season tomatoes. We got to wait for the late season tomatoes. But other than that, everything's great. All the things that we're growing is just turning out really well. Maybe not so much with the eggplant.
Yeah.
Fruits look nice. The plants just look terrible, but there's so much good, so there's nothing really to complain about.
Yeah, I've had really trouble with eggplants. I only had one plant this year, and it hasn't produced a single fruit. But it's been setting flowers the whole season. But I think it's the humidity. I don't think so. For me, the problems with humidity is eggplants. They don't like it, and also tomatillos. They hate the humid weather. So so if I have a really wet season like I had this year, then those plants won't do good at all, and I know that.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if you saw there or watching it all when I played the in the garden segment there, but did you see our volunteer tomatillo?
Yeah.
I mean, that thing is a monster, and
Yeah.
it's probably got 1,000 flowers on it, but I ain't got one fruit yet.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's also the case for me. I didn't grow it this year, so I didn't try it, but I know for a fact I've been having a real trouble getting it to. Well, I get fruits, but
Yeah.
the problem is that I get so much. What is it called? Anema, or when it bubbles on the leaves, leaf edema, or I think it's
Edema.
called
Yeah, edema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so the whole plant looks horrible, but it still produces fruits. But yeah, it's not
Well,
something
see,
I have.
you got the exact opposite. You got a horrible looking plant producing
Yeah,
fruits, and
yeah,
I've got a beautiful giant
yeah.
plant with millions of flowers. It looks awesome. Not producing one yet.
Yeah, but there's so many things to learn from a season like this, and I did it
Oh
this
yeah.
way because I really wanted to see. Uh, th- I think the problem with gardeners in general is that if they make something that looks half decent, they're never going to change how they did it, because it takes a full season, so it's 1 year of your life to have to try to do something, and
Yep.
you don't want to experiment too much with that time because it takes so much time. But
Exactly.
this year I figured I really wanted to try a few things. So the first thing that I wanted to test this year was to have a really late start, and as I said, it almost works out. I see a few things like I'm not getting peppers until now, and the tomatoes, they didn't like it too much. I feel like tomatoes are one of those plants that really like the early beginning in the season, and then they just shoot from there, and they have the growth spurt, and then they just put out so much tomatoes. But
Yeah.
this year they were kind of average. It's not great, but it's not horrible. So but the thing about having this late start in the season is that I really had the opportunity to test how the plants react to a start when it's just going into full season, because where we live, it's kind of snow until summer, and then it's
Yeah.
summer until snow. So
Right.
it's we don't have the same thing that you have. You have like this cold season that goes for months, where the plants can, you can grow greens and you can get things started, and you have like a full season. We have
Yeah.
1 month from snow to summer, so it is a really short period. But the
Yeah.
other thing that I wanted to really test this year was that I intentionally wanted to try to grow almost nothing in the greenhouse. I wanted to have in the beginning, I was just chockking full the greenhouse of everything, and it went south pretty fast. But then I've been slowly taking it down. But this year I said, okay, let's take the lowest amount of plants I've ever had in the greenhouse and cut it in half. So I had it felt like I couldn't even post pictures of it because it just looked stupid. There was nothing in the greenhouse, I felt like. But it turns out that that's the ideal planting distance and the
Yeah.
amount of plants, because this year all my pepper plants are producing. So I have the Jimmy Nardello that produces these
Oh yeah.
beautiful long sweet peppers, and I've grown that plant every single year, and every single year I've gotten 2 3 maybe peppers from each plant that was decent. But this year
Yeah.
I'm getting 20 decent fruits from every single plant. So it turns out that starting real slow and having a garden that looks kind of boring in the beginning helps with two things: you get more fruit from it, and also you get a garden that you can actually control until the end of the season, because that's been my
Yeah.
main problem every single year. I've lost control of the garden. So
Yeah.
I figured I found some new solutions for next year. I'm going to start
Yeah.
early, but I'm going to keep it to very limited amount of plants
Keep,
in the greenhouse.
yeah, excellent. Yeah, I just by circumstance, have a real late start, and I kind of showed that in the video as well in the alleyway with our cucumbers. So that's kind of an experiment for me now, because I had a whole bunch of cucumbers. I had some really decent starts and all of that, got them planted out, and something came through and just ravaged those plants. And that's why I lost all of this time and all that I put into getting these plants to where they were, and then had to restart. And
Yeah.
so those are all from a restart later in the season. So I've kind of got that a similar experiment going on to see how well they go. But the plants look awesome. They look healthy, strong. So I can see in the next few weeks that I might be under a similar situation where I'll just have a ton of cucumbers coming off of them,
Yeah.
because then they'll have bypassed that hottest part of the summer.
Yeah.
You
They
know?
don't like that too much.
Yeah, yeah. It can really take a toll on it. Well, I mean, it can take a toll on anything. Even the full sun loving plants can't handle that extreme heat and that much direct sun. So, I think I think in that case, we're probably going to be looking at a pretty good harvest when it comes down to it. So might be, again, something like you said, we create habits each year because, it's a whole nother year until we got to, until we can try and growing them again and all of that too. So maybe I've learned something in this process, and I can, again, I'll have a minimal start with some things, and then we'll add some things that other things are pretty much finishing up, towards the end of our summer season anyways.
Yeah, and the temperature is also really important. And I
Mhm.
would like to keep my greenhouse at a steady 28, 29 degrees Celsius, which is 83 Fahrenheit or something like that. And that's the perfect temperature to keep as long as you can, both in the daytime and also keep it as close to as warm as possible in the nighttime, but
Yeah.
but not above the 80, 83, 84 mark, because then the plants really have a problem. If it's really sunny, the cucumbers start to wilt in the daytime, and the peppers start hanging, and nothing is really going on. And if
Mhm.
you combine that temperature with moisture, which I always have, there is always moisture here. It's not good, and especially for peppers, you get those blotches on the peppers where the tissue goes soft. It's
Yes.
kind of like they're rotting, but it's just sun scalding and temperature and
Mhm.
moisture that really
Yeah.
breaks down the peppers. So if you can keep the temperature low, then you get so much better yield. It's
Yeah.
amazing the difference.
Oh yeah, I'm dealing with a ton of that too. Lots of my peppers are, got sun scald. Anywhere where there isn't a leaf covering up a pepper, you see it getting on there. And that's also another thing too. It's if the sun scald happens lower on the fruit or on the pod, a lot of people also mistake it for blossom end rot.
Yeah,
Because it's almost as similar, but it happens on the side and not at the very end of the fruit. So that's kind of one way you can tell the difference between whether you have blossom end rot or if it's a sun scald. So yeah,
yeah,
but I've got a ton of peppers that got sun scald on it, and that's easy enough. Other than blossom end rot or whatever, you just cut that bad stuff off, and peppers are
yeah.
still pretty good when it comes to that. And in fact, that kind of a good segue to one of our first questions for you here. We got Rob's Allotment Gardening joining with us, and he asks, "What do you feed your peppers?"
So when I start out in the beginning, I feed them with organic fertilizer, fish fertilizer,
Okay.
the liquid stuff. There's never enough. You can't overfeed, and I do that from even when the seeds sprout. I always water with fertilizer. I never do it without. So until the plants move outside, it's just going to be fertilized with the liquid fertilizer, and I do that on every time I water, I fertilize. And once they get outside into the greenhouse, I do prepare the beds in the springtime. So what I do then is I just take whatever I have on hand. If I have some cow manure, I can use that. If I have horse manure, I can use that. Or my go-to is chicken manure. I
Yeah.
use that so much, and I just buy these huge bags, and I just fill the beds. It smells like death for a week.
Yeah.
but but then I really get that tilled into the soil, and I deep water, deep water, deep water. So I have my watering system running for a few days to just
Yeah.
completely soak the beds, and that really gets the chicken manure into the soil. And also, if I have some bone meal or blood meal or something like that, I just sprinkle it in. But
Yeah.
it's not rocket science. I just sprinkle in whatever I had, as long as I get enough of it. So
Hmm.
that's what I do every single year, and
Yeah.
that's the only thing that I do within the season, because I don't water after June. I don't water. So
Okay.
it sounds strange, but it tells a little bit about how moist environment we have up here, because the greenhouse is 500 square feet, and my plants that are growing in the middle of the greenhouse don't need water. In the last 3 months of their growth cycle, they don't get water. So it's all the rain going outside the greenhouse, dropping down on the outside. It wicks into the greenhouse, and that's plenty enough. So that's why I don't water in the middle of the season. And it also helps me to keep the soil as dry as possible in the ground in the greenhouse, because the moisture is killing everything. So you just need to try to keep it as low as possible. And I found that way to do it.
Yeah, that's great. And when it comes to good organic feeding of your plants and all of that, it can get really smelly, as you mentioned, and one of the things I recommend, because this is kind of what happened with me, I usually, and Rob just mentioned too about starting feeding his pepper plants after the first true leaves. That's a good time to get started. And I really highly recommend using a fish fertilizer of some sort. I can see the differences in my plants this year because I didn't use it. I just didn't have any available at the time. And so I just didn't bother going and getting any this year. And I can definitely tell the difference in my plants from previous years when I do that. And again, like you said, a little bit of bone meal maybe into your soil. Great way to get your plants started. And then for me, after that, because I do have to water continuously throughout the season, I will add just a little bit of a balanced organic dry fertilizer. That'll just kind of scratch into the soil. That way, I'm just continually giving it something. Most of mine are all in containers, so it can really wash through, and leach a lot of those nutrients that you started out with, by mid-season. So it's good to give it just a little bit of feeding to keep everything going. But I highly recommend the fish fertilizer. And like you're saying, chicken manure smells. Oh my gosh, the fish stuff. Whoa. I swear I'll mix up, I'll put a little bit in, because you only put so much in with a big 5-gallon bucket that I have, and I'll fill that up with the water. And by time that bucket fills to the top with the water, I've got every fly from like maybe 10 miles around that has just come to converge for a convention right there in my garden. And you could tell, by the smell of it, you could see why, man. That smell probably gets right out there, and they're just like.
And then you can think I use that in my indoor grow room also. I only use organic fertilizers there, and the smell can be pretty pungent at times.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I think the fish is a little bit worse when it comes down to it. But again, I highly recommend it. No matter how it smells, it'll only last, it can last a couple of days even sometimes.
Yeah, but the worse it smells, the better it works. So it's just that simple.
That's a pretty good way of measuring it there for sure. The worse it smells, the better it is for your plants, definitely. But let's see here. We also had another question for you here. Jay was asking, Chris, is the majority of your gardening in a greenhouse?
Yes, this year everything, almost everything I garden is in the greenhouse. So I have an outside garden that I have some few berries and some of the plants that we've had here for 50-60 years, and we have those berry bushes, but the only gardening I'm doing is indoors this year. I'm going to do a lot of outdoor gardening in the coming seasons, but this year we've been focusing on other things, and the greenhouse is so big that it's a full garden. 500 square feet is quite a big space to continuously do gardening on a full season. So it's enough space, but I really want to get back into doing the outdoor gardening also, because I enjoy that more, I think, than the greenhouse gardening, just because I when I grow outside, I only grow the things that are truly working in our native environment. In the greenhouse, I can grow things like peppers and tomatoes, cucumbers, and those types of plants. They don't grow natively here. It's just no
Yeah.
way to grow them outside for me. It just doesn't work. So, but outside I can have potatoes, onions, all those kinds of cold hardy crops. I can grow lettuce in the middle of summer and everything. So carrots, oh, I just love growing carrots. So that's the things that
Yes.
I'm growing outside. And the nice thing about the outside gardening is that there's no pest problems. There's no problems with things not turning out good. I don't need to water. Once I get the seeds sprouting, I don't need to water at all until harvest. And all those types of things just is just so simple. It's just anybody can do outside gardening here if you grow the really native stuff. So yeah, I can't wait to get outside and do some more gardening. I just need to finish up some projects first.
Yeah. I think that was something we talked about last time. How is that coming along nicely? Your project with
Yeah.
setting up that new garden space.
Yeah, so we're tearing down one of the houses that we have on the property this year, and it's a lot of work. So I'm doing it myself also. So that's why this year has been focused on that, which is going to give us a huge space to do some fun things in the future. I want to have a water fixture or some sort of garden water thing. I don't know.
Oh, you gotta have it. You gotta have it.
Yeah, I want to have that.
It's one of my favorite things in my garden are our water features.
Yeah. So our property is very steep. There, it's just a giant hill, everything. So I would like to have some sort of runny water going down the whole property. That's kind of my end goal. But I need to take everything in steps. And this year also I shut down the grow room because I wanted to redo everything. I think we were talking about that in the springtime.
Yeah.
So everything is shut down there, and I've been focusing on tearing down the other house, but I'm also going to be tearing down most of the grow room now this autumn, and hopefully I will be able to get working on that this winter, and maybe get something going. So next summer or something, I'm ready to start back up again with the indoor grow room. I could do something quick and dirty now to just get started back up and get the plants going and everything, but it's not going to be good in the long run. I want to address some of the things that I really wanted to change for the last 10 years. So I want to have a taller ceiling, or what's it called?
Higher ceilings.
So I want to do all those types of things, but it's a major reconstruction of the whole room and the whole building. So that's why I'm just gonna take the time, I think. And I've been slow at uploading the last couple of years, and what's another year if it turns out that the grow room is going to take 1 year, then I'm just going to make videos on reconstructing the grow room, because I think it's going to be interesting. With my 10 years experience in having a grow room, I don't think many people can compete with me in having such an indoor grow space for exotics, because I've been really doing it as I saw you put in the thumbnail for the video. I'm growing bananas indoors and all kinds of crazy things. I've harvested coffee beans, and those kind of things really require a lot of attention. And I want to focus more on those tiny details and make sure that I rebuild something that's really going to take it a step further, if that's possible.
Yes, and absolutely. And that's one of the things I think is just so amazing about the growing that you do, and so you do it so well. growing indoor. I mean, it's just been amazing watching you over the years grow all of these just fantastic things, like you mentioned, and in the graphic for the show. You know, the banana plants, the coffee plants, the all these different things you've done with that indoor space. And if anybody's watching right now and hasn't had a chance to check out Christopher's channel, there is a link down in the description below. I encourage you to go check it out. Go check out some of his older videos of his indoor grow space. You'll be amazed at the sort of the things that Christopher grows up there in Norway. And again, you're in such a northern climate that it, you know, I mean, yes, you've got your greenhouse going now and all that stuff, but it was kind of like almost just what you had to do was figure out ways to grow in that indoor space. And really figured it out. Like you said, I don't think there's much of anybody who can compete with the indoor gardening you do.
But I just took it way too far, all the way from the beginning. I wasn't using the first 5 years to have like 5 plants and just keeping them going and everything. I really got into the problems of having a large scale 200-300 indoor tropical plants in the same room from the early beginning. So I got used to the big problems. And the only problem that you will have with a setup like this is pests. Because if you get pests on houseplants, it's really hard to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And if you have 10 plants, then you can manage. It's not a problem at all. But if you have 300, there's no way. At one point, you need to shut down, and that's the reason why you see my channel and you see channels like Ray at his Voodoo Garden. The Praxis Ray, and he's also had those times where he's throwing out plants for different reasons. But as an indoor grower, I know the reasons for some of the things leaving the house. It's pest problems.
I've got my space here and all around me, and even in these spaces people can't see here, I've got all these indoor plants all around. And when something starts, I mean, when I notice any sort of like weakness or any sort of thing happening with any of my plants, it's immediately I got to get it out. I've lost a lot because of pests when it comes to having so many plants in one space like that. And I totally get what you mean when you're talking about that.
It really depends on what you're growing, because if you're growing regular houseplants, they are so much more pest resistant than food plants. If you're growing food indoors, so if you're growing peppers and tomatoes and you're growing eggplants, those are horrible. And all the different types of growth that are meant for food, the pests are going crazy. So it really depends. But when I mix all my plants, I see that everything I'm growing that's edible is getting real severe problems, but the things that are not edible are kept clean. They are just going. So it's just strange when I bring regular houseplants into my grow room. They can just stay there and nobody bother them. But my peppers and everything, it's just a horrible mess. And also it depends on the types of leaves you have, because if you have like a beautiful plant like a monstera or something with large leaves, like the one you have there, it's easy to wipe them down. But if you have pepper, you have 2.5 million leaves, and there's no way you can get rid of it. Like, for instance, my office lemon tree, which is, I hope you can see, there's lemons everywhere. It's just chock full of lemons. I counted, it's over 100 lemons on it. So now, before you say you should pick off some of them, I know, but I'm just testing the plant. I want to see what it can do. So, but for instance, with to get to my point, the pest problem, like this one, when I have pest problems with this plant, which you will get, it's a food plant, it's growing indoors, there's gonna be pests. So it's such a hassle to clean down and to wipe down every single leaf on this plant. It's so much work. So but that's okay, because I have one tree. and I can bring it outside. I can take it out the garage door, and I can hose it down. I can rub every single leaf. I can clean them off, scrub them off, and it really gets rid of the problem. But imagine having 200-300 other plants simultaneously at the same space. It's just such a mess. But,
Yeah.
it's so much fun that you really just get back into it. You throw out everything and you restart. It's just so much fun.
Oh man, again too, going back to kind of what you're talking about with the regular garden and all that, there's situations that happen, and so again, we're learning and figuring things out. But a lot of cases, if it doesn't work out this season, I always reference it's like baseball or any other sport. If you're a sports fan at all, if the season just goes, in the wrong direction, well, you know what, you chalk it up and you just go, there's always next season.
Yes.
So I think gardening is just the same way. There's always next season when it comes down to it. And I had a citrus that I grew. It was a Moro blood orange tree, and I barely kept it alive for a couple of seasons outdoors, trying a couple of different methods over the winter time in order to try to keep it sustained in our cooler temperatures. And believe me, it was just kind of ridiculous for me to even think I could grow a blood orange in my climate. It just wasn't gonna happen anyways. But I tried a couple of seasons.
There's always a way.
I know. I did try.
Don't come here say you can't grow oranges.
But I finally was like, okay, 2 seasons of trying to keep it alive outdoors. I tried all things of covering it, putting lights around it to keep it warm, all sorts of different methods I tried to keep it going. And so I was like, you know what, the third season, I was like, you know what, this time I'm going to try and I'm just going to bring it indoors. I got to bring it indoors and keep it, and I had it off a ways, in this other room, but it was just within weeks of having it indoors that the pest issues just started. I mean, it was cold issues in the seasons, but I bring it indoors and the thing just got ravaged. And no matter what I was doing to try to keep it clean or to manage these pests, that just, I clean them off, I get it all good and think it's all great. Next day, boom, again, I'm back at doing the same thing, and the pressure was just so heavy that ultimately that tree just was not going to survive. And so, maybe I'll give it another try. The one thing is that, maybe not a blood orange, but what I really got to do, and I've been thinking about for this next season, is getting a lemon. Trying a lemon tree, because they can handle just a little bit cooler of a climate than most of your orange varieties can. Yeah.
And there's also different types of lemons. So there's always some sort of lemon that could really take deep cold. So I've seen lemon trees go down to well below freezing and still manage to survive. So I would do a lemon tree. I just love it. It's something that for me, I'm really attached to lemons, because when I was growing up, when we were going to on vacation to southern countries, we were often going to Greece and to Italy and to Spain, France, and all those countries down in the Mediterranean. And there was always the blooming citrus trees, the lemons. It was the fantastic smell of lemon just throughout.
It's amazing.
When you were driving on the roads, you just get those whiffs of lemon just going in. So I always wanted to be able to reconstruct that same smell here, and I have that now with my office lemon tree. And
I was going to say, that must have had a ton of flowers on it. I bet your office was smelling great for a week or two, huh?
Yeah, it's starting to flower back up again right now, actually. Wow. So when I get in here in the morning, I turn on the lights and I go to sit down on the computer. I just get that whiff of lemon just going in. But once it's in full bloom, when it has no fruits at all, and the whole tree just goes into bloom, it's almost unbearable in here. It's so strong that it's almost hard to sit at the desk here and do actual work, because it's so strong.
Oh man, I'm definitely gonna have to get a lemon so I can try that out for sure. I mean, I would love to experience that smell. I mean, I've been around other citrus trees. I didn't get very much as far as the one that I tried with that blood orange, but I've been around a lot of other citrus trees and all of that, you know, in bloom time, and it's just again amazing smell that
Yeah.
those trees can put off.
And just going by, pinching off a leaf and just rubbing it a little bit, and it's the perfect citrus smell. I just love it.
Oh yeah, awesome. So again too, I did watch, I think one of your last videos that you put up on your channel there. You had a fig tree that you introduced to your greenhouse. How is that
Yes,
fig tree doing out there?
it's doing fantastic. It
Yeah.
well, it doesn't like the moisture too much this summer, so I get some brown spots on the leaves here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But in the total of it, it's growing really nice, and I think that I really have a tree there that's going to do well in the coming years. And I also I started a video series. I just uploaded one video, but I'm making a video series now about automating my greenhouse, and I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I've been doing that before, but now 5-6 years later, I want to redo everything. And it's the same thing with my indoor grow room. I've learned, I know what I would need, and I know what I want, and what
Mm-hmm.
really would put the and it's just those simple things. And also in that process of automating everything, I want to have full control over my ventilation, and also I'm going to have a built-in winter system. So when winter comes, the only so I have now I have the fig tree, and I have a
Mm-hmm.
laurel, and I have rosemary. Those three don't the three of those don't handle the cold, so I need to keep it above freezing for the majority of winter. It can
Yeah.
go below freezing a few days. It's not a huge problem for none of those, but totally it has to be a little bit above. So I'm just gonna check in Fahrenheit, because I guess most of your viewers are in Fahrenheit. We often in the wintertime we get down to -22 Fahrenheit,
Oh
which
wow.
is
Yeah.
really cold. It's
That's a hard freeze. Yeah.
that's a really hard freeze. That we're talking Alaska temperatures, and
Yes.
and that way I need to have some sort of winter security system going in there. So what I'm designing now is a system that have heating elements that I can control via my computer, and also I can use, because in the wintertime with that temperature, the geothermal system in the greenhouse isn't efficient enough to keep it's too big of a difference in temperature.
Yeah.
And also a greenhouse like mine, people would say that, well, having a geothermal greenhouse with that type of greenhouse with only the polycarbonate panels and everything, it's a horrible solution. And then I agree. It was just that I was lucky to find this greenhouse at a really good price. So I just went that way. Otherwise I would have some sort of insulated system going into it, but I don't have that, so I need to make do with what I have. And now this winter also I'm going to make some sort of cage for my fig tree, and inside that I will be able to raise the temperature a little bit, just enough to keep the temperatures a little bit better. So yeah, hopefully I have a fig tree going in the long run now.
Yeah. You did put it out any fruits at all for you?
No, not this year. It
Not this year.
didn't try. And next year also, I don't think I'm going to let it fruit, because I want it to really grow in, because I need those deep roots, because we have I don't know what's it called, ground frost, the
Permafrost.
permafrost. So it's
Mhm.
not permanent, but it goes down 3 feet in the
Okay,
wintertime. It's just freeze for 3 feet. So I really need a tree that gets the root down in the beginning, and
Right.
because some of the roots have to stay below the freezing point for the tree to survive. So yeah, that's why I'm in a hurry to get things growing and not producing fruits in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, before you know it, in the years coming, that thing's going to try to take over your whole greenhouse.
Yeah, I know the last one did. It was I had to chop it down because it reached the ceiling in the
Yeah.
greenhouse, but it put out so many figs, and
You're pretty used to that, though, having to cut down plants because they just grow too tall for you, huh?
Yeah, that's my main concern.
I know all that. That's one of the main reasons why you're building the new indoor grow room and all that, is because all your plants just get too tall.
The only plant that I've had that type of problem with is my banana. All the others are doing well. Like the coffee, I have to cut it down, but it's not a problem because the coffee can still be a decent coffee, just wider, like a bush.
Right. Yeah.
But the banana is kind of the whole point of the banana is just the top. So so you can't chop it down and expect it to stay low. It's always gonna be.
It doesn't grow vertically or horizontally. It grows.
And you can't get the bananas on the bottom. It's just on the top that everything is happening. So so the main reason is just plainly for the banana. I'm gonna build the banana house.
Let's see here. Rob says, must cost a fortune to heat in the wintertime.
Yeah, so the outdoor greenhouse, for sure. That's why I this winter, with everything that's happening in the world, and with the energy crisis everywhere down in Europe, they had energy crisis everywhere, and so I could do it. I could continue to heat the greenhouse, but I felt like that it's not a good look. So I just decided to, well, I'm just gonna shut it down, and I'm gonna see what happens. And of course it didn't. The fig tree didn't survive, but it was expected. But as we were talking about the things that sometimes in gardening you need to do some experimentation to see if something works out in the end, and it turns out that figs really can't survive here. That's just a fact. So it's gonna need some additional heating. But with the system that I'm designing, where I have enclosure just around to tailor fit the tree, then it really doesn't cost a lot to keep it going the winter time. So but it's costly to do those types of gardenings here.
Yeah, all the lights, even all that sort of stuff. What is the indoor stuff? Yeah,
but when you're growing tropics in the winters of Norway, it's just there's no way to go around that. It's actually going to require some energy.
Yeah.
But we have hydro energy.
You have the
here.
means to do it, man. You know what? I just couldn't imagine anything more enjoyable to be able to do with that sort of off-season time that you have up there.
Yeah, but we have green energy, and if I were to burn coal to be able to keep my plants going, then it would be a little bit different. But we have clean hydro energy, and as long as I can pay the bill, then I feel like it's okay.
Right on. So anything else going on in the gardens this year that you?
Yeah, it's just automating the greenhouse, making things more efficient, rebuilding the grow room. It's just the year of fine tuning things. I've been doing a lot of things that I wouldn't have done before, just because I have been too afraid to lose a season. And this year I'm all about I'm fine with losing everything this year. It's just experimentation, and I've learned so many things this year that I haven't learned the last years. And you always see those YouTubers that are promoting this and that, and they have never tested every single way of doing things. They just find something and just run with it. It's gonna be this and that. But it's nice to just take a step back sometime and really try to A/B test your methods. and
Mhm.
it turns out there's so many things to learn, and there's so many different ways to achieve the same thing. And yeah, so it's just that year that everything is been tearing down, and we're now next year we're gonna build up again.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really in a similar way for me, this year again, as I mentioned before, there were just a lot of challenges in certain things, and there was a point where I had to really think about what my plan was, what I was going to be doing with the actual garden spaces, because I'm on a similar thing. I'm working on projects and things that aren't in the garden. They're other things, and so really, I've just kind of it's why it's not the best of my years, but the one thing I get out of all the different things and just, doing this or doing that a lot differently than what I would do in a normal year is I've got some experimentation going on.
Yeah.
As we talked about with the cucumbers, those are a very late start for me. I think they look great. I might have just learned something new to be given a try, for up for more coming seasons. And like you said, that's something we should be doing anyways. There are things like my peppers. I spent years trying different things, year after year after year, and then you find something that makes it successful for it, and then you find out whether or not that is a success or that works well enough is when you change it up, like I
Yeah.
did this year. I didn't put that fish fertilizer in, and I can tell the difference in my plants
Yeah.
from what I did in previous years. So that's like so there I did an experimentation of confirmation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it only confirmed what those methods I learned over those many seasons for what I do works really well for that. But I love growing all sorts of stuff, so that means there's
Yeah.
tons of opportunity for experimenting and learning different methods for all the sort of different things that I like to grow, and finding those those best practices for
Yeah.
doing those sort of things, again, through you know, pretty much really just kind of circumstance. It's just I've got these other things. My attention and time is taken in another place, so it doesn't give me as much time to be focusing on the actual garden itself. So I'm just tossing and trying and doing different things in whatever time I have, and I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
Whether it's a confirmation again of whether or not I should be continuing to do certain things I've done before, or finding out something new that's even that is showing me a different success that I wasn't seeing in previous years.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing, and as I always say here on my channel and on this show, if we're not learning, we're not gardening.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, that's really awesome. And to be able to catch up with all of the things that you've got growing on there, and it really, really fascinates me. Again, that opposite climate that we live in. So every time we get together and have a conversation about that stuff, it's just really fascinating to me to see these sort of different systems and things that you've come up with in order to succeed in growing in an extreme environment, is if you would say,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to gardening.
Yeah, it is really extreme in that sense, because I'm
Hmm.
growing things that shouldn't grow here. So
Yeah, that's one awesome. Let's see here. Gardeners is we always want to do better next year. Well,
yeah.
that's it. Again, that also just kind of goes along with the whole idea of what I was saying before, though, too. We're trying the best we can with what we got for the season that we're currently in. We're learning some things and all of that, but that kind of is the mind frame, though, is that I'm going to take what I've learned this season and put that focus into the next season, so I can see whether or not those things I learned this year are actually going to succeed. And so we're always kind of forward thinking if we're if we're really gardening. Yeah. Right on. Let's see here. Oh, we got a question for you here. Jay asks, is solar or wind a reasonable option for home energy production?
So solar is nice. In the summertime, we can produce solar energy almost the entire day and night, because there's so much sun that the sun almost never sets and
Yeah.
rises. But in the wintertime, there's close to nothing. So we don't
Mm-hmm.
have sun almost at all in the wintertime. So, but solar is really popular here, and we are seriously considering redoing our roof with solar tiles, just because we want to have the freedom of having a solar
Yeah.
system. But we could produce all the time in the summer, but not as much in wintertime. And wind power is really nice. But where we live, actually, we are down in the valley, and it's really sheltered from winds. So we don't
Okay.
get enough wind for it to be viable to put up a wind turbine or something like that. It's just not blowing enough.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I actually I lived in went to high school in Alaska. So I know
Yeah,
what it's like to live there, you know, what that sort of thing is like. And believe me, I it is
you're not
really
going back.
different. No, I don't think so. I'm not much into the cold, you know, when it comes down to it. I ran away as fast as I could when I got old enough.
Yeah,
And started moving progressively south
yeah,
as I've
one
gotten
state at a
older.
time.
One state at a time, absolutely. And yeah, but I remember what it was like during the summertime. I mean, I don't know if anybody has ever had the chance to be in such a northern, you know, and I suppose it's just the same for winter time or summertime for the South Pole as well. But when you're that south or that north, you know, it, I remember when at the height or the longest days of the summer, it almost seemed like it never got night at all,
No,
you know,
no. So when I
barely
go
a
outside,
dusk, you know, and then turns light all over again.
yeah, it just gets a little bit more dim, but not dark at all. So in the summertime, in June, when it's at the highest, it's I can just go outside and just work around like normal. It's just not getting dark. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I love that feature, but I don't like
Yeah.
the darkness.
Yeah, again,
The
that's what I was gonna
trade-off is
say.
not
You
good.
know, you get these great long days in the summertime. It seems like
Yeah,
days just kind of run right into each other. You don't
yeah,
really see any sort of nighttime, but it's the very opposite during the wintertime. You
yeah.
barely see any sunlight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, huh? Oh man. Again, one of the main reasons why I got away as fast as I could. Those winters were just too much for me. I
Yeah.
just living in the dark was just something, you know. I mean, it's one thing in the cold. I'm not much of a person who, you know, I never really liked the cold too much, you know. But I think it was the darkness of
It's the
winter that
combination.
really,
The combination.
yeah, and then the combination together,
Yeah, the
definitely.
combination makes it a prison, because if it's warm outside, then in the wintertime, I don't care about the darkness. It's fine. But if it's really really cold and dark, it's just not what's the point of living. It's
I know. But see, that's exactly why, you know, you've got the things going on that you have going on with the different gardening stuff that you've done and featured on your YouTube channel over the years, you know, is, you know, what better way to spend that time, you know, while it's all dark and just gloomy and cold outside than indoors, you know, caring for some bananas and lemons and coffee plants and all sorts of different tropical plants and all of that, you know. So that's you know, that's just a best way to spend that time.
But it's easier for me, because I can grow outside. I can grow crops that you would probably have more problem with, like for instance, all the cold hardy things that we
Yeah,
grow: the potatoes, the carrots, the salads, everything. It grows like weed outside here. It's crazy how well it grows, and with
yeah,
no care at all. And when I'm speaking to you, and I'm speaking to my friend or a common friend Kang, for instance,
yeah,
down in Texas, he's
yeah.
not able to grow the things that I can grow. And
Mm-hmm.
it's easier for me to then just put up a greenhouse or have a grow room and then grow tropicals. It's not that easy the other way around. It's not easy for you guys to create the cold climate. It's just not possible. So
I know.
so
I
some
mean,
of
that's
those
one of my
things,
favorite things in the garden are the greens.
yeah,
You know, and I really, again, here's the thing though, too, for where I'm at, and I can totally imagine that where King's at and anybody else in really the more southern states like Texas, you know, that it's just becomes really almost impossible to do because of how short that cool season is. But for me, I've got, you know, just a month or two, couple of months right there at the end of winter, and then just a couple of months just before going into winter. So we got these two little time periods during the year where we can get away with growing some greens, you know. Other than that, then it just, you know, we're in the dead of winter, or it's just way too extreme and hot, you know, for any sort of greens. Like, you know, it's amazing how fast they just start shooting to seed, you know. Let's see here. I think we got another question here for you. Talking about the daylight there. Does constant summer light affect your plants? Common wisdom is 12 to 16 hours of light, then dark for plants. So you notice that? Any sort of
no, the short answer is just no. It's not a problem.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that when you guys down south are talking about sunlight, it's the scorching sun. But what we have here in the summertime, it's just dim sun. It's far away. It's low on the horizon. In the middle of the day, we have good sun, but all the hours that are just lit up, it's not a sunburn type of sun, and the plants don't mind that at all. It just doesn't affect them at all. So I think it's the intensity of the light that's defining how many hours the plants can take, because I don't see any sign of that at all.
Yeah.
But in the grow room, of course, I stick to the 12 on, 12 off, because if I boost that, then it would be scorching sun from the grow lights for too many hours. So if I were to dim them down, it wouldn't be any problem to keep the lights on for more hours. But it's just the amount of energy from the light, I think, has to be limited to something.
Yeah, that's a good question though too, because I would have thought and wondered the same too. You know, because really, you know, you're thinking, because we do a lot of that stuff. I do the same thing myself, like anything that's indoors, 12 on, 12 off, you know, and you know, the idea is just to kind of give the plant a little bit of a break from the light.
Yeah.
But if it's outdoors, and you're seeing this, you know, firsthand, you know, if it's outdoors or like you said in your greenhouse and the light's just constantly on because the sun is, you know, up for, you know, 20 hours a day, 20 plus hours a day, then you know, a lot of people might think that, you know, those plants would be hindered a little bit by not having a chance to, I guess, sleep, right? You know.
But if you think of your sun when it's just about to go down in the ocean, it's not that warm, it's not that bright, it's not that big of a deal. It just doesn't make the same impact. And also our sun is, since we are so far north, is just so much dimmer and so much not as intense. So for instance, in the summertime, I can be outside. Here in Norway, I have used sunscreen maybe 3 days in the summer, and when we go south to Greece or Italy or something, I get sunburned in an hour. So or in 10-15 minutes. So it's a different sun. It's not comparable. And I feel like if the sun at your degrees would give off X amount of power within a day, my sun wouldn't give off more power. It would just stretch it out. It would be much lower and more stretched out. And I think that the total sum is what the plants are looking for.
Yeah,
I'm just guessing, but it seems to work.
Everything seems to work and grow just fine, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, that's a good question though too. And
But
also too,
I do feel like it's almost the opposite. I feel like our sun is not strong enough for some of the plants. It would really need some really harsh sunlight to be able to grow just the way it does in the tropics, for instance. So if I were to
right.
grow coffee outside here or something, I don't think the sun would be strong enough to really put the oomph into the leaves. They're more used to the really strong sun, so we don't have that.
Let's see. Here's a good question. Is there anything? I mean, you found a way to grow lots of things, up there. Is there anything you found that you can't grow or haven't been able to grow?
I don't know.
Yeah, you got to think that hard, right?
Yeah, but I've done fairly well with the most. The only things that I've been struggling with is things that go in the ground.
Yeah.
So, for instance, sweet potatoes is really hard for me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
also now, when we were in Thailand in February, I brought home some galangal. I think that's the same way you pronounce it, or is it the same name? It's the ginger-like thing.
Okay.
So it's roots like ginger, and of course ginger also. It's the same thing. It's really hard for me to grow those, even in the greenhouse, because the temperature in the soil is not good enough. I can have all the warmth
Right.
in the greenhouse, but if the soil temperature is staying really cold, then it just doesn't
Yeah.
like it. So
So what
those
about
I've found really hard to grow, all the root rhizomes for the different things like ginger and sweet potatoes. And
or what about things like asparagus or
no,
say
asparagus grows fine, and it
yeah,
also grows outside. So I have
I know.
asparagus. I have asparagus patch outside, and
Oh, awesome.
it puts out nice asparagus. So
And I know things like other like perennial type things. Um, I'm having a hard time thinking of it now. It's like the red celery like stuff. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I totally lost it.
rhubarb,
Rhubarb, yes.
yeah,
And I was gonna
rhubarb.
say I
Oh,
know you can grow rhubarb because my grandmother grew rhubarb up in
yeah,
Alaska.
yeah.
So
Rhubarb is like a weed. It just grows almost wild. Yeah.
yeah, well,
So that's not a problem. But it's my gardening is 3 steps. Is it
yeah.
suitable for outdoor gardening? Is it suitable for outdoor greenhouse gardening, or is it suitable for indoor grow room gardening? It's it, I kind of have the full spectrum. So everything would sort of fit into one of those growing areas. I'm not confined to one type of growing condition. I
Yeah.
can simulate those that I can't produce outside. I can simulate indoors. So yeah, but
Yeah.
it's nothing that I've really had problems with. It's everything is just maybe some watering issues with certain things. Things are harder indoors, but yeah, it's really not a big problem. Everything sort of just somewhere in the production line it ends up, and it's working. And it's citrus indoors works.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I think that's, one of those things that, again, you had to think quite a bit about the question because I think that's just one of your things is that, if it's a challenge or if sort of like I was saying about the orange plant, or the tree is that, if it's a challenge of some sort, you're going to try to meet it and try to
Yeah,
figure it out and then tackle that and try to find a success with it. And I don't, again, I've been following you for years now, and I don't think there's really anything other than, like you said, some pest pressures or some things like
yeah,
that just kind of come in and wipe things out. But what they're wiping out is the successful grow in a sense,
yeah.
when it comes to most anything.
It's not about something not being able to grow. It's always the things that I've lost is just by me being stupid and for forgetting to check the watering system or something, or pests. Pest is what kills everything that I have,
Yeah,
mainly. And but isn't that mostly the case for everybody?
right.
Isn't pests the biggest problem?
pests, yeah, whether they're little bugs or
Yeah,
animals for a lot of people.
yeah.
People have the
It's all the same
deer or the
category. Things that want to kill
rabbits
your
or
plants.
yeah. Everything wants to get at those plants and share them with you.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But rhubarb is. Do you grow it?
I don't grow it here. No,
Oh,
it's
it's
just
so
one of
good.
those. Yeah, it's just one of those ones I haven't, same with asparagus, it's just again too not too sure on where I would actually put it in a sense or
Yeah,
versus, whether, growing something that, who knows, I could be out of here in another, I don't own my
yeah.
place, so I rent
It's a long-term thing. Yeah, of course,
and
for
they
sure.
are, yeah. So all those long-term, more perennial type things,
Yeah,
I would love to, grow, but just not sure if it's actually the right fit for my garden space
yeah.
because of those sort of concerns. But yeah, I mean,
But you got
eventually
a
will.
fig tree? Didn't you get a fig tree?
Yeah, I've actually got a couple of different figs. I got
Yeah,
one. It's a Chicago fig, like
yeah.
like you're growing. I have one of those. It's out on the back patio, and then I have a couple of other cuttings. I can't tell you the actual varieties of them,
No,
but I
but they're
got
not
them
in ground, or they're just in pots.
pots. Yep,
Yeah, yeah.
yep. And yeah, the I'm not sure about the varieties that I have that I've just started from some cuttings I got from the Fig Hunter. Um, but so I'm not sure what I'll have to do as far as overwintering them. But in the pot that I have my Chicago fig in, plant just dies back and then grows right back again, even bigger the next year.
Yeah,
Just being right out there without any sort of precautions for it,
yeah.
because we don't get really hard
No,
freezes
no,
like
no,
you're
no.
dealing with. So
Yeah, I would imagine a fig could just stay outside for you without any problem at all.
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, that variety does well. I'm gonna have to do a little more research on the other varieties that I have to see what kind of things I'll have to deal with when it comes to those. But Chicago figs are a really hardy fig. I mean, if anybody knows Chicago, I mean, Chicago, obviously it's named after the area, so you'd hope that it would grow just fine year round there. And that's, it's a cold place too. It's one of
Yeah,
our colder places in the States. So
yeah. It was a Chicago fig, the last tree that I had. But this year, I'm actually the one that I planted this year is called Ronde de Bordeaux or something. So
okay.
I'm going to try that, and it's supposed to be in the same category as the Chicago fig, both in taste and in cold hardiness. So hopefully,
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I can't wait to start. I mean, they actually got some fruits on there. I just don't know if they're actually going to really develop. We'll have to kind of wait and see when it comes to them. But I'm really excited in the years to come to finally have my own figs. I
yeah.
do. I do have a neighbor that lives just right across the way, has a big, huge fig tree right out front.
Ah.
So I try to walk by every now and then and grab some when they start. It's so many of them, and I don't even know. It's new owners there, so I'm
Yeah,
actually planning on going over and talking to them about maybe getting some cuttings or do
yeah,
something with their actual tree. So I don't even know if they know what they have or not yet. So,
yeah. Oh,
but
figs are so good. I love figs.
yeah, oh.
It's so good.
Yep. In fact, I mentioned the Fig Hunter. It's a channel and a fig company down in California. I'm going to try to stop by and go visit with them on my way down to
Yeah.
the Heirloom Expo in a couple of weeks and grab some all sorts of varieties of figs. They even brought me by some when they came through visiting some family. They came up this way and stopped by and gave me like a whole thing of like, I think there was probably like 6 or 7 different varieties of figs in there. And boy, oh boy,
Yeah.
so delicious. And that was one of those things I never, I grew up. I don't know if you got them there in Norway, but they're called fig Newtons. They're like little fig cookie type things, right?
Yeah, I think,
Like,
yeah.
that's the only thing I ever knew about figs
Yeah.
growing up and until I started, gardening and growing and learning about them. And in fact, that tree across the street was the first fig that I ever got to taste. That in the same year I went into John Kohler's front yard, and he has a big fig tree. So I got to,
Yeah.
I think they're like turkey figs that he has, so I got to try some of those, and just hooked.
Yeah.
Love it. They're so delicious.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yep. Well, it's good to hear about all of that, and I'm glad that the figs are going well. I was telling you, I just watched that video not too long ago, and so I was really hoping to hear the good things about that, and all the other things that you got growing on that lemon tree. I mean, you can't really tell. I don't know. Let me try. I'm gonna try to put you on full screen here real quick. Yeah, there you go. I can see some in there now too.
Yeah,
Yep.
so there's lemons everywhere. It's
Just
chock full.
amazing.
It's too many, but yeah, I just wanted to see how far I can take it and see what the what the tree is capable of. And it's only growing indoors under grow light, and still they're decent size now. So it's really getting somewhere, and they're growing slow and steady. But yeah, it's something that I should probably cut them off. It might be too late, so I'm not sure. I'm just gonna keep the flush going until they ripen, and I'm just gonna have some mini lemons. But yeah, I
So
just
that's
wanted.
something I would wonder though too, because you say it's flowering again, right?
Yeah,
So are
that's the I think it's
those ones
confused.
gonna ripen in time for the new ones that you
No,
got
no,
coming
no,
with the new
no, no.
flowers, or
No, I
no?
think it's just confused. So
It's just
so
confused. Okay.
I think these will ripen around Christmas, and I'm just picking off the flowers now because yeah, it's I don't want it to do anything more.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
All right. Well, awesome, man. I think we're getting down to time here. And again, just really great to have you here on the show, officially on the show,
Yes.
instead of just one of our little seasonal chats and all of that, which we got to do again sometime soon. I think, here as we get towards the end of summertime and in the beginning of fall, maybe sometime when I get back from the Heirloom Exposition, we'll have to hook up with Kang again and do another little live stream too, and
Sure.
talk all about how our season has gone and all of that too with Kang. I love those conversations when we all get together.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I enjoyed
Chris. Awesome.
It's always a blast having a chat about gardening.
Yes, and to many, many more chats for sure. I know we will. All right.
So.
All right. Well, we'll see you the next time around.
Okay.
Chris.
Thanks
you again so much for joining us here on our show.
Bye.
Hey, gardeners. Thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits. All right. What another great conversation here on the Let's Get Growing show. It's so awesome to have our good friend Christopher Brandsdal all the way from Norway joining with us here on the show. Just a great conversation. Again, like we said during the talk there, just really fascinated with all the things that he's able to do in his garden spaces and all of that too. And again, I would encourage you to get down into the description below, and there's a link to Christopher's channel there. Go check out some of those videos. Like I said, some of those past videos he's done in his indoor grow room are just magnificent. Some awesome stuff there to check out. So be sure to go do that for sure. And again, I want to thank you all so much for joining with us here and being a part of the conversation. I do want to give a big shout out to our moderator, Jay Dixon, in the comments there, does such a wonderful job with posting links about what we're talking about, subjective links, channel links, links to articles, all that sort of stuff. Jay does an awesome job as moderator. I want to be sure to really thank him for what he's doing and participating with our Let's Get Growing show. Thanks again, Jay. And also, next week, be sure to tune in with us here on the Let's Get Growing show. We will have with us the Mocha Gardener. Ashley Thomas is going to join with us and talk about her book that she published this last year called How to Become a Gardener. I'm really excited about that conversation. So be sure, again, to join with us this next week and hear all about what Ashley has growing on in her gardens, and we'll talk about her book and all of that sort of stuff. So again, be sure to be here, and also be sure to give this show a big thumbs up, hit that like button, and also be sure to subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and share the channel with all of your gardening friends out there. Let them know that we have this really great, fun gardening conversations every Saturday here on the Urban Gardener channel. And yeah, and also go check out our website at letsgetgrowing.live. And as we mentioned too, best way to support our show, we'd love to support. And go check out ivyorganics.com. Check out their 3-in-1 plant guard, their fertilizers, some of their live plants, all the things that they have available in their shop there, and use our promo code GROW10, GROW10, to save 10% off. And also, I mentioned at the beginning of the show as well too, down in the description there is also a link to our Facebook group, the Let's Get Growing group, and that's just a great place for all of us in the community here, all of you who join with us each week on the show, to be able to get together and share more about your gardens. It's actually a great place to put up some pictures so that I can see what you're growing in your gardens. You all get to see what I grow. I show you guys that all in the different videos and all that sort of stuff that we do here in the channel. I also share on the Facebook group as well too. So yeah, I want to see what all of you have growing on too. So be sure to go down in the description and join in on our Facebook group. We would love to have you there with us. So again, I hope you all really enjoyed our show today. It was really great having you. And from all of us here at Let's Get Growing, have a great week. And, you know, we'll see you this next Saturday.